Hey everyone, welcome back to Sara Retires. Quick question. What's your cash actually earning right now? If it's sitting in a regular savings account at your bank, there's a real chance it's earning close to nothing, while there are simple, safe options paying meaningfully more. I want to be upfront. This video is not sponsored. Nobody paid me to make this. I just think more people should know this exists, because I use it myself for cash I'm not actively investing. Today I'm walking you through how to park your cash in short-term U.S. Treasury bills, either directly or through an easy ETF that does it for you, how the mechanics actually work, and importantly, the real pros and cons so you go in with realistic expectations. I'm Sara. This is Sara Retires. Let's get into it. What do you actually want from your cash? Let's start with the goal. Whether you're holding cash as an emergency fund, cash you're saving toward a goal, or cash sitting in a brokerage account, waiting for an opportunity, ideally you want the same three things: a competitive interest rate, safety, and minimal hassle. You don't want your money locked away where you can't touch it, and you don't want to jump through a bunch of hoops to access a better rate. That combination, good yield, high safety, easy access, is exactly what makes this next option worth understanding. The core idea: short-term U.S. Treasury bills. At the most basic level, you can lend money directly to the U.S. federal government for a short period, a month, 2 months, 3 months, through something called a Treasury bill, or T-bill. In exchange, the government pays you interest, and because it's backed by the U.S. federal government, the risk of default is about as close to zero as an investment gets. Depending on where interest rates stand at any given time, T-bill yields can be quite competitive, often meaningfully higher than what a typical bank savings account offers. You can buy T-bills directly, but if that sounds like more effort than you want to deal with, there's a much simpler way. The easy version: a Treasury bill ETF. There are ETFs on the stock market that do this work for you. You buy the ETF just like you'd buy any stock. The fund takes that money and invests it in short-term Treasury bills, and you receive the interest income in the form of a monthly dividend. One well-known example is the iShares 0 to 3 month Treasury Bond ETF, ticker symbol SGOV. It's available on basically any major brokerage: Fidelity, Schwab, Robinhood, Webull, and others. Here's how the mechanics actually play out day to day. The share price hovers right around $100, and it drifts upward gradually throughout the month as interest accrues. Then, once a month, the fund pays out that accrued interest as a dividend, and the share price drops by roughly that dividend amount. Then the cycle repeats. Price creeps up, dividend gets paid, price resets down, and so on, month after month. The exact dividend amount isn't identical every month. It moves with prevailing short-term interest rates. But the mechanism is simple. Your money buys short-term government debt, and you collect the interest as monthly income. What kind of yield are we talking about? Yields on these funds move with short-term interest rates, so the exact number will shift over time, sometimes meaningfully. As of this recording, funds like SGOV have been yielding in the high 3% to low 4% range, which is still typically more competitive than most traditional bank savings accounts, though noticeably lower than the yield seen back when interest rates were at their recent peak. The most important thing to understand is the relationship. When the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, T-bill yields, and therefore ETFs like this, pay more. When the Fed cuts rates, yields on these funds come down too. But here's the key context. In that same environment, your bank's savings account and CD rates are typically falling as well. So the comparison tends to stay favorable either way. You're just riding the same interest rate wave your bank is, usually a bit ahead of it. Important: This is not a growth investment. I want to be very clear about something before we go further. This is not an investment in the sense of trying to build wealth or beat the stock market. Think of it like a savings account, not a growth vehicle. You shouldn't expect to get rich from the interest here, any more than you'd expect to get rich from a bank savings account. The value proposition is simple: safe, liquid cash that earns a genuinely competitive rate while it sits there. Whether you're building an emergency fund, saving for a near-term goal, or waiting for a buying opportunity in the market. The real pros. Let's go through the genuine advantages, one at a time. Low risk. These funds only hold short-term U.S. Treasuries, widely considered among the safest assets in the world. Competitive yield. As discussed, the yield has generally stayed above what most savings accounts and even many CDs offer, particularly in higher rate environments. Liquidity. Unlike a CD, where your money is locked up for a set term, this trades on the stock market. You can sell at any time during market hours and access your cash quickly. No early withdrawal penalty like a CD would have. Monthly income. Distributions are paid monthly, giving you a regular, predictable cadence. Reduced interest rate risk. Because the underlying holdings mature within roughly 3 months, the fund's price stays remarkably stable even as broader interest rates rise or fall. You're not exposed to the kind of price swings longer-term bond funds experience. Tax advantage worth knowing about. Interest income from U.S. Treasury securities is exempt from state and local income taxes under federal law. Since these funds' distributions come entirely from Treasury interest, that same exemption generally applies, which can be a meaningful benefit if you live in a state with high income taxes. The real cons. Let's be honest about these. Now let's talk about the downsides, because a complete picture matters more than a sales pitch. No FDIC insurance. This is genuinely important. This is not a bank account, and it is not FDIC insured. If you're specifically worried about bank failures, this doesn't carry that particular government backstop. That said, ETFs are legally required to keep fund assets completely separate from the managing company's own balance sheet. So even in a scenario where the fund manager itself ran into serious trouble, the underlying Treasury holdings would still legally belong to the fund's shareholders, though practically speaking, untangling that would likely still be a genuine hassle. And if a major asset manager collapsed, we'd all likely be dealing with much bigger problems. Yield sensitivity. If the Federal Reserve cuts interest rates, the yield on this fund drops accordingly. There's no way around that. You need a brokerage account. This isn't something your regular bank offers. You need an existing brokerage account, or you'll need to open one. No long-term growth. Worth repeating, this isn't designed to grow your wealth. The share price is engineered to stay close to $100, and virtually all your return comes from the interest, not price appreciation. A small fee. Funds like this typically charge a modest annual expense ratio, commonly under 0.10%, which trims a small amount off the stated yield. It's a modest cost, but it's worth knowing it's there rather than being surprised later. Who is this actually good for? Based on everything we just covered, this tends to make the most sense for a few specific situations. Cash sitting in your emergency fund that you want earning something rather than nothing. Cash you're holding in a brokerage account while waiting for a buying opportunity in the market. Or cash you're saving toward a near-term goal where you don't want the volatility of stocks, but you also don't want your money completely idle. It's probably not the right fit if you're trying to grow long-term wealth. That's what a diversified investment portfolio is for. Or if the idea of not having FDIC insurance genuinely keeps you up at night, in which case a high-yield savings account or CD from an FDIC-insured bank might feel like the better trade-off for your peace of mind, even at a somewhat lower yield. How to actually get started. If this sounds like something worth exploring, the process is simple. Open a brokerage account if you don't already have one. Most major brokerages support this at no extra cost to open. And then purchase the ETF just like you would any other stock, using the ticker symbol for whichever fund you choose. It's worth comparing a few similar funds side by side, since this isn't the only option of its kind. There are several ETFs that track short-term treasuries in a similar way, sometimes with slightly different expense ratios or maturity ranges. A few minutes of comparison shopping can make a genuine difference over time. The honest takeaway. To be totally transparent, I personally use a strategy like this for cash I want parked safely while I wait for opportunities. It's not glamorous, and it's not going to make headlines, but for money that would otherwise sit idle earning almost nothing, it's a meaningfully better option, as long as you understand exactly what it is and what it isn't. This isn't personalized financial advice. Everyone's cash needs and risk tolerance are different, but understanding that this option exists is something every saver watching this should walk away with. Closing plus CTA. If this introduced you to something you didn't know existed, that's exactly what this channel is here for. A lot of people have no idea options like this are sitting right there in an ordinary brokerage account. Hit subscribe if you want more practical, no-hype breakdowns like this one. Drop a comment and let me know. Is this something you're already using, or is this brand new to you? I read every comment, so I'll see you down there. This is Sara Retires. I'll see you in the next one.